So finally, natural wine has a shape, right? Because up until now, what is natural wine exactly? Nobody knows. I mean, is it like Darkwing Duck, the terror that flaps in the night, but when you try to grab it, it disappears in a pile of smoke? It's like the Mercury Man in Terminator 2, like Jodie Foster in Nell, like Guy Pearce in Memento, Sean Penn in I Am Sam, Richard Roxburgh in Mission Impossible 2 is actually Tom Cruise wearing a mask. Now, I read an article the other day written by Matthew Fremantle about natural wine called Unclear, because natural wine is unfiltered. And he was just talking a little bit about all the rules that have just come into effect, because now in France you can get bottles labeled Vin Methode Nature, which is basically a series of, well, it's a label that it involves a series of rules about what it takes to be a natural wine. And obviously, could you think of anything more French than a series of rules telling you what wine can or can't be? But in the end, I mean, I kind of feel like maybe it's a good thing, because it enables the guys who are really doing it to come out and put the label on their bottle, and the charlatans kind of have to step back a little bit, or at least prepare to be called out. So I thought, as the consumer, you best be prepared. So I've made a little list or a mnemonic to help you remember all the new demands for natural wines coming out of France. So there's few things more memorable than a CrossFit trophy, right? No one forgets a CrossFit trophy. And so I've built a little mnemonic around that. So if you want to know what is required by a natural wine certification in France, first of all, you cannot have any cross-flow filtration, right? That's totally out. You also aren't allowed any thermovinification, and definitely no reverse osmosis, right? But yes, all the fruit has to be from certified organic vines, and you definitely cannot have flash pasteurization. It absolutely has to be hand-picked, and finally, it also has to be fermented via indigenous yeasts. So that's a lot of rules, and I sit around often with people who are passionate about wine, and we all discuss our favorite natural winemakers. But if you look at that series of rules, that's quite a list of demands. I'd be fascinated to know what you guys think, whether this list of rules is actually worth applying in South Africa, and probably more importantly, whether the guys who you consider to be your favorite natural winemakers would actually be considered natural winemakers according to the new certification coming out of France. Now, of course, this is not final. It's still going to be in a trial period for the next 3 years, but from this vintage, wines will be on the shelves in France from estates that agreed last year to take part in this. So I, for one, will be watching eagerly to see what sort of hiccups or roadblocks they encounter in France, because it might help us to decide what the best path forward is for natural winemakers in South Africa who are seeking to develop a certification like that. Already there are some local winemakers getting a little bolshy about these rules, but I would like to know your guys' thoughts. So drop some comments below. I'm going to leave a link to the article written by Matthew Fremantle so that you guys can all have a look at that, get yourselves informed, and then we can start a real discussion about what natural wine in South Africa might look like.